Now, ladies and gentlemen, even up to the network news at the top of the hour 7 minutes ago that I'm compelled to listen to, we had to hear Chuck Schumer going on and on about the necessity for an FBI investigation in order to conduct a fair hearing. And, of course, the news gives Chuck Schumer a platform. He is a mouthpiece. He is the Svengali behind this entire thing, as he was in other confirmation hearings. He's loathsome. Now, I want to tell all the news outlets out there, including the one I'm compelled to listen to pay attention. You do no investigative work on your own. You are not journalistic professionals. I speak of CNN and MSNBC. I speak of CBS and ABC. I speak of NBC, the New York Times, and the Washington Post, because either they have refused to do the investigative work necessary or they found it and killed it. Now, what am I talking about? There's a great little network out there called NTK Network. And they found a statement by Joe Biden during the Clarence Thomas hearings in 1991 over whether or not the FBI should be brought in to conduct an investigation. This is the holy grail right now of the recent propaganda of the left and the Democrat Party. If he thinks he's innocent, Kavanaugh, why doesn't he submit himself to an FBI investigation? If the administration is so supportive of this, why don't they support an FBI investigation? I want you to listen to what Joe Biden said as chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee back in 1991 during the Clarence Thomas hearings. This will be the first time I believe this has been played on radio. I want you to listen to this very, very carefully. Joe Biden, 1991, Thomas hearings, whether or not to bring in the FBI. Cut 20, go.
The next person that refers to an FBI report as being worth anything obviously doesn't understand anything. FBI explicitly does not, in this or any other case, reach a conclusion. Period. Period. So, Judge, there's no reason why you should know this. The reason why we cannot rely on the FBI report, you wouldn't like it if we did, because it is inconclusive. They say he said, she said, and they said. Period. So when people wave an FBI report before you, understand, they do not reach conclusions. They do not make, as my friend points out more adequate, they do not make recommendations.
Wow. Now, I want to encourage the cable channels, including my favorite cable channel, and all the backbenchers to grab onto this as quickly as possible. All the websites to grab onto this as quickly as possible. Chuck Schumer knows that Joe Biden said this, but he was relying on the media not to bring it up. Dick Durbin knows that Joe Biden said this. They were there. But they're relying on the media not to bring it up. Patrick Leahy knows that Joe Biden said this, was on the committee. But they're relying on the media not to bring it up. The media is bringing up everything but this. So the Democrats now, day in and day out, Kirsten Gillibrand, Maisie whatever from Hawaii, Adam Schiff, who's not even on the committee, one Democrat after. This is their big talking point. Schumer, as recently as this evening, given voice by network news that I am compelled to listen to. All you network news outlets out there on radio and TV, you going to play this? You going to play this? Anderson Cooper? Don Lemon, you going to play this? Rachel Maddow, you going to play this? How about you? How about you out there, the Washington Compost, the New York Slimes? How about the Morning Schmo and the soon-to-be Mrs. Schmo? That conga line of freaks on MSNBC. That conga line of fools on CNN. They have these large research operations. Hey, you know, we are the free press. We're professionals here. We actually have editors. It's the golden age of journalism. How do they miss this? Unless they want to. Unless they decide not to look. New York Times is looking at a 1983 yearbook from Georgetown Prep. Lies about it. The Democrat Senate staffers find Ms. Rivera. We need to delay. Dr. Ford doesn't like to fly. Well, now we know why they wanted to delay. They thought they had another woman, and they want to look at this, a pattern with no witnesses. But there's no witnesses. Yes, but we have a pattern with no witnesses. Joe Biden himself out there claiming that he defends women. I guess it's women he doesn't touch. He's a very handy fellow. He must have known he said this in 1991. He couldn't have been clearer. No, he says. No, the Democrats said in 1991. No, they said during the Clarence Thomas hearings. You don't need an FBI investigation. They don't reach any conclusions. Don't you understand how the FBI works? Now, for the slow-listening leftists out there, and that would include Democrats in Congress and Democrats in the media, let's do this again. Follow the bouncing ball. Cut 20, go.
The next person that refers to an FBI report as being worth anything obviously doesn't understand anything. FBI explicitly does not, in this or any other case, reach a conclusion. Period. Period. So, Judge, there's no reason why you should know this. The reason why we cannot rely on the FBI report, you wouldn't like it if we did, because it is inconclusive. They say he said, she said, and they said. Period. So when people wave an FBI report before you, understand, they do not reach conclusions. They do not make, as my friend points out more adequate, they do not make recommendations.
So, Tucker, I know you're listening to the first hour. You need to play this on your show. And all the rest. Now, what are the Democrats going to say about this? Well, this is different. Why? Well, that was 1991, you see. This is 2018. You understand why I play these things and point these things out. You understand why I did the Sunday show the way I did it. For filibuster, exercised it like never before in American history against George W. Bush's judicial nominees. Obama becomes president. They abolish the filibuster for all courts below the Supreme Court because they want to stuff the courts with leftists. Now they whine about the fact that they can't use the filibuster. In the case of the Supreme Court, because Mitch McConnell said, okay, well, then we're not going to use it on Supreme Court justices so we can get Neil Gorsuch through. The FBI doesn't matter. Now the FBI is everything. Oh, and by the way, Biden, Obama, Schumer, and the rest go to the Senate floor in the last year of George W. Bush's second term of his presidency, and they say, you must not nominate anybody to the Supreme Court in the last year of your presidency because that's not fair to the voters. Obama's president, and in the last 9 months of his presidency, he nominates Merrick Garland. Joe Biden standing right next to him. Now they say, oh, you can't nominate anybody in the year before a midterm election. What? Who set that rule? These people are horrid. They are hateful. They're dragging this nation into the gutter at every level and in every way. They treat the President of the United States exactly the same way. Vile, disrespectful, hateful, because they lose an election. And they're not allowed, you see. You're not allowed to vote for whomever you want. They go on and on about the franchise. More and more people should be able to vote. More and more people should be citizens. But then when they lose elections, they attack the Electoral College. When they lose an election, the next day they're talking about impeaching the President of the United States before he steps foot in the damn Oval Office. They talk about impeaching Brett Kavanaugh should he become a Supreme Court justice. Now they're talking about impeaching Clarence Thomas. These people are un-American in every respect. I'll be right back.
The next person who refers to an FBI report as being worth anything obviously doesn't understand anything. FBI explicitly does not, in this or any other case, reach a conclusion. Period. So, Judge, there's no reason why you should know this. The reason why we cannot rely on the FBI report, you wouldn't like it if we did, because it is inconclusive. They say he said, she said, and they said. Period. So when people wave an FBI report before you, understand, they do not reach conclusions. They do not make, as my friend points out more adequate, they do not make recommendations.
Wow. You want to hear more Joe Biden on presumption of innocence? Same hearing in 1991. You want to hear this one? Turn up your volume. We've been hearing now from Maisie What's-Her-Face, the senator from Hawaii. We've been hearing from Kirsten Gillibrand. We've been hearing from others that the burden is on the accused. Even though the witnesses have no corroboration, no corroborating witnesses, the burden is on the accused. And they even initially suggested that Kavanaugh should testify first. The burden's on the accused? Really? Well, here's what Joe Biden said about that at the Clarence Thomas hearing in 1991. Cut 21, go.
And lastly, Judge, with me from the beginning and at this moment until the end, the presumption is with you.
Wow. He's presumed innocent. The presumption is with you, Judge. Even the loathsome, dim-witted Joe Biden understood enough, despite his cheating in law school, that the presumption is innocence, not guilt. I wonder what Kirsten Gillibrand has to say about that. I wonder what Maisie What's-Her-Name has to say. I honestly can't remember her last name. I wonder what she has to say. What is it? Hirono. Oh, great. Maisie Hirono thinks of that. And all the others have been telling us day in and day out on MSLSD and the Constipated News Network, CNN, no, you don't understand. This is for Supreme Court, so the presumption is he's guilty. He has to demonstrate that he's an innocent man. What is this, the Soviet Union? All of a sudden they're colluding with the Russians. Shall we listen to that one again? I would encourage the network news that I have to listen to pay damn attention and stop spoon-feeding us the left propaganda. I would encourage Jake Tapper to wake the hell up. And the others at CNN. And the phonies at MSNBC. Do your damn jobs. Golden age of journalism, my ass. Cut 21, go.
And lastly, Judge, with me from the beginning and at this moment until the end, the presumption is with you. Now we're going to hear more witnesses. They're going to come in and corroborate your position and hers.
And by the way, in this case, we don't even have any corroborating witnesses. None. Zero. 2 accusers, no witnesses. Zero. I've never seen anything like this. Go ahead.
We'll find out whether they're telling the truth or not as best as we are capable of doing, just like you as a judge are when you look them in the eye and make a judgment.
Boy, is this guy a pompous fool? He really is a pompous fool, this Joe Biden. Go ahead.
So, Judge, this is less directed at you than it is to my pontificating colleagues.
And boy, he doesn't pontificate at all, does he? Go.
Democrat and Republican alike. So, Judge, I have not made my judgment based upon this proceeding because we have not heard all the evidence.
Of course, he's a liar. He made not only his judgment, but behind the scenes, he was trying to smear Clarence Thomas. And he was quite the sleaze. But so was Schumer. So was Biden. So was Leahy. So was Kennedy. So were the rest of them. And so we have it from the the horse's mouth. Joe Biden. FBI can't reach conclusions when investigating this sort of stuff. Period. And the presumption of innocence is with the accused. Now, what will the Democrats do? What will the Democrats do? Well, I'll tell you what the Democrats will do. They will continue with their spectacle. They have created a base within the Democrat Party that is a mob, an army of mobsters who threaten senators, we'll get to that, like Ted Cruz, who condemn police officers as a group, who are violent as a group, who support socialism over market capitalism as a group. Oh, yeah. I'll be right back. So what do the Democrats do now? That's not really the right question. What do the media do now? I've now presented evidence, incontrovertible, unequivocal evidence of Joe Biden as chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee when the Democrats controlled it, of his position respecting the FBI in confirmation hearings. I've now presented his position on whether or not the accused has the presumption of innocence. Now, you would think, as patriotic Americans, people who understand the Constitution and the rule of law, that this shouldn't be all that controversial, but it is, because the Democrats seek to fundamentally transform America. And I told you yesterday, and I want to underscore this point. This is not just about Kavanaugh. They are sending a message to any conservative, any constitutionalist who dares to make themselves available for a high-level appointment that may, in fact, have an effect on the direction of this country away from the progressive statism, that is, centralized tyranny. They are sending a message that they will destroy you. You can be a geek and a nerd, as Kavanaugh appears to be to me, and they're going to accuse you of rape, of sexual molestation, of public drunkenness. Without a single witness in America, without a single witness. 36 years ago, 35 years ago, it might as well be 500 years ago. How convenient. 36 years ago, 35 years ago, how convenient. Why shouldn't we believe that Kavanaugh is innocent? Nothing's been presented to demonstrate the opposite. Nothing whatsoever. And in the case of the second woman, Ramirez, the Democrats found her. And look how deceitful the Democrats are. They delay the testimony of Ford because they're working with Ramirez. They're trying to get her to come forward. They sit her down with lawyers for 6 days. She's not sure it was Kavanaugh. She's not exactly sure. After 6 days, everything's clarified. Everything is in color. She knows exactly what took place. And now they're ready for the Ford hearing, except they're not. Now Ford and her lawyers are demanding a limit on the amount of press. Isn't that correct, Mr. Producer? So here Ford, her first contact about what allegedly happened 36 years ago was with the Washington Post, because, you see, she wanted her privacy. So she went to the Washington Post, which is where everybody goes for their privacy. And now, having dictated term after term after term, having negotiated with the Senate, now she's saying she wants a limit on the amount of media. And you watch. The vast majority of media will think that's a great idea. Because the media really aren't the media anymore. They're propagandists. They're mouthpieces for the Democrats. Why the hell do you think we were able to find Joe Biden saying what he said, but Jake Tapper didn't, Don Lemon didn't, Wolf Blitzer didn't, and the other conga line of morons over there? Why do you think MSNBC didn't find this stuff? Why do you think the New York Times, busy going through the 1983 annual at Georgetown Prep, couldn't find this? Because they didn't want to look. They're looking under rocks for anything they can find to try and piece together. No evidence, no witnesses. But did you attend Georgetown Prep? Yes. Isn't it a well-known school where they drink a lot? Oh, yeah. This Kavanaugh says he didn't drink. Is that possible? Doesn't sound right to me. Oh, wow. And you'll go on the record, but anonymously? Yes, I will. Okay. 12 people who witnessed nothing, but went to Georgetown Prep, say it was a very drunken environment and there's no way Kavanaugh wouldn't have known about it. Oh, wow. There's evidence. You liberals and Democrats should be ashamed of yourselves. The disgusting behavior is beyond belief. And I'm going to tell you something. It's not just Republicans and conservatives and independents. There's a lot of Democrats out there who are looking at this. I don't mean the radical left, old Soviet-style Democrats. I don't mean the Antifa types. No. Serious people who are looking at this and saying, holy cow, what the hell is this? And many of these liberal Democrats are probably saying to themselves, geez, I did more than what he's accused of. What the hell? I mean, I guess I can never serve. Sure you can. Because the Democrats in Congress, in Washington, on the Senate Judiciary Committee, have two standards. Ted Kennedy, despite Mary Jo Kopechne's death, despite chasing every woman he could, despite endless sexual harassment, oh yeah, his drunkenness and all the rest, he's held up as the lion of the Senate, don't you know? But Kavanaugh, he's a sexual predator and a drunk. Ladies and gentlemen, I appeal to your sense of truth and integrity and your years of experience. Does this make sense to you? Why have the media been hiding, covering up Joe Biden's statements in 1991? Why is Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer and Dick Durbin and Patrick Leahy all around today, all on that committee then, why are they hiding what they said in 1991? Because they're reprobates, that's why. They're reprobates, that's why. They've destroyed the judicial confirmation process, and they've now taken it even several notches lower than it was before. Not for Ruth Bader Ginsburg, not for Elaine Kagan, not for Sotomayor, not for Breyer, not for the great Merrick Garland. Oh, everybody agreed Merrick Garland. We've never seen anybody like Merrick Garland. Who? Oh, Merrick Garland. He's like the best. Why won't the Republicans go for him? Remember what they did to Rehnquist when he was nominated to be Chief Justice? Oh, my God. You know, he's a racist. Why? Well, there's his deed on his house said no blacks and so forth. Well, he didn't write the deed. Well, but he never changed it and so forth and so on. Oh, who knew? Sam Alito, they trash. His wife is tearing in the background. Clarence Thomas, of course. We know the story there. Why is it that all the constitutionalists are sexual harassers, are racists? They're not. They're not. All they want to do is apply the Constitution. I've told you over and over again, and I've written about it in book after book. This force, this movement that was imported into the United States from Germany, Hegelism, Marxism, Engelism, call it whatever you want. It was Americanized through a number of professors, intellectuals, over 100 years ago, 1860s, 1870s, and then beyond. The progressive movement was first embraced, frankly, by the Republican Party early on, and then more aggressively by the Democrat Party, because the politicians figured out how they can control society through the government. And they've been scheming ever since on ways to abandon the constitutional order, scheming ever since. The Democrats today are so radical in their economic theories and their governing theories, they cannot tolerate losing an election, particularly to a man like Donald Trump, who's upending things, who's changing things, who is undoing the Obama agenda. And as I say, they can tolerate 3.5 philosophically constitutionalists on the Supreme Court, but that's it. It's their Politburo. It's their baby. They own it. They claim. And why? It's because the progressive intellectuals of the past have written extensively that if you really want to control society, you got to get around the Constitution. And the only way to get around the Constitution is through the Supreme Court and the other courts. So they're constantly trying to pack the courts. See, for them, it's not really a matter of interpreting the Constitution, applying the Constitution, being an originalist, trying to figure out the intent of the framers and the ratifiers, looking at the text. No. It's a living and breathing Constitution. This language comes from Woodrow Wilson, right out of his own writings. He says, look, you can't have a living body if the organs are working against each other. The states against the federal government, branches of the federal government against branches of the federal government. It must be a harmonizing whole where the organs are all working together. So you need an all-powerful progressive president. That was his first position. Then he abandoned that position. So what you really need is an all-powerful judiciary. And you can put really smart experts on there, like them. Then change the country. Rewrite the Constitution. Amend it at will. That's exactly what's been taking place. So when you have somebody like a Kavanaugh who says, when he's introduced by the President of the United States, that he's going to follow the Constitution, for them, that's war. War. The smarter the judge, or the smarter the professor, or the smarter the lawyer who is nominated to go on the Supreme Court, the more they're abused. Well, what about Scalia? Well, they figured that was a throwaway seat because it didn't get close to the majority. Now, when the Democrats nominate people like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who in my view was wholly unqualified due to her extreme ideology, her post-constitutional mindset, I don't have to agree with her. I'm just saying she was way out of line. She gets over 90 votes. Elena Kagan was a hack, a political hack for Clinton before she served Obama. She had no serious record. Sails through with over 60 votes, almost 70 votes. Sotomayor, not particularly outstanding in any of her writings or anything of the sort. Sails through with almost 70 votes. Breyer served for some period of time on a circuit court, but before that he served Ted Kennedy on the Senate Judiciary Committee. He sailed through with almost a unanimous Supreme Court. Clarence Thomas gets 52 to 48 votes. 52 to 48. Neil Gorsuch. What did he get? 60 tops? You can look it up. I think less than that. 54 maybe. Is this the standard you want, America? That half the country's treated the way we are? Make no mistake about it. The way they treat Trump, the way they treat Kavanaugh is the way they view you. They hate you. They despise you. So we have established here, in really moments, that the position the Democrats have taken with the FBI was flat out rejected by Joe Biden in 1991. For the same reasons, they should be rejected now. We've established here, really in mere moments, that Joe Biden, at the same hearing as chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee when the Democrats controlled it, also in 1991, the Clarence Thomas hearing, said that Judge Thomas deserved the presumption of innocence. A position the Democrats have rejected. We've also established here in rather mere moments that none of the progressive media bothered to even look for this information. Bothered to even look for this information. Let us now see if they use this information. And I would encourage the primetime lineup at Fox to hammer away and to use both audio and promote the point. Dr. Ford now is trying to dictate through her lawyers, and that is Schumer, a limit on press access to the hearing on Thursday. Now, the press would normally be appalled by such a thing, let alone a witness demanding limits on the press. Is she getting cold feet? Or is Schumer trying to kill the hearing? But we will monitor the media, and we will see if the media find this to be an attack on freedom of the press, like never before. We will monitor the media to see just how much and how serious the media are. They're not, as you can tell. These media organizations, MSNBC is part of NBC, which is owned, I believe, by Comcast. These are multi-billion organizations, international corporations. CNN is owned by a large conglomerate, too, and all the rest of them. Washington Post by Bezos, the wealthiest man on the planet by far. New York Times, 70% of it is owned, or was, by a Mexican multi-billionaire telecommunications magnate. So these are big operations, big organizations, with big investigative units, so big that they're busy looking at the 1983 annual of Georgetown Prep. And yet they couldn't find anything that Joe Biden said on all their Sunday shows. They couldn't play it when they were bringing in a conga line of fools and frauds and fakes who call themselves Democrats. Senator Coons from Delaware, fraud. Senator Whitehouse from Rhode Island, fraud. Senator Schumer of New York, fraud. Senator Durbin of Illinois, fraud. Senator Mazie, Hino, what's her name? Hirono, whatever, of Hawaii. I have a mental block on her for good reason. Adam Schiff, really a snake in the grass. None of them had to answer any of this prior to the hearings on Sunday because the media didn't want them to answer it. The golden age of yellow journalism, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be right back. Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. Let me suggest this to you, ladies and gentlemen. Based on what we know right now, that's an important point. But based on what we know right now, any Republican senator who votes against Kavanaugh should be primaried. Because enough is enough. Enough with the sleazy Democrat tactics. Enough with the Soviet Star Chamber. Enough guilty until innocent stuff. Enough with accusers without corroboration and witnesses. I mean, it shouldn't even come down to this hearing on Thursday. The media love this. The media love this. Their ratings are going to go through the roof. They're sending all their bigwigs to Washington, D.C. They're already there to tell you what you watch during the hearings. The media love it. The cable channels love it. Nothing like a good, Roman Colosseum, throwing the Christians to the lions. Right? Oh, we're such a sophisticated republic these days, aren't we, ladies and gentlemen? Tell me, Judge Kavanaugh, when is the first time you had sex? Excuse me? You don't recall? Tell me, how many beers did you have when you were in high school? How about college? Did you go to a keg party, multiple keg parties? What did you do, sir? I have before me, Judge Kavanaugh, your yearbook, your high school yearbook from 1983. Is that your picture? Yes, it is. Did you write that in the margins there? Well, I don't quite remember. Maybe. Really? You understand you're under oath, Judge, don't you? Well, yes. And, of course, the accuser, you don't want to rough up the accuser. It wouldn't look right. And, of course, you'd be accused of all kinds of things. Yes. Are you okay with the environment that you're in right now, Ms. Ford, Dr. Ford? Yes, I am. Are there too many reporters? You know, we can remove some of them if you'd like. Well, just the Fox guys. Get rid of them. Okay, we'll accommodate you, whatever you want. Do you mind if we have a woman question you? Yes, I don't want a woman. I want old white men questioning so we can accuse old white men of being insensitive. Oh, okay, well, maybe we can accommodate you. How else may we help you? Well, just ask me softball questions. And I prefer that you throw them underhanded across the center of the plate. Oh, well, of course. We want to make sure we're fair. We're going to bend over backwards, don't you know? Now, Judge Kavanaugh, why should we believe you? Judge Kavanaugh, can you prove you were not at the unknown location on an unknown date at an unknown time? Can you prove that, sir? No. See? See, ladies and gentlemen? You can't prove that? No, I can't prove it. I can't disprove it. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you don't. See, we need an FBI investigation, ladies and gentlemen, to get to the bottom of this. Well, Joe Biden said that's not how it works. Well, that was then, this is now. We have a new FBI. Got all kinds of cool tools, and you never know. You must be hiding, Judge Kavanaugh. Well, I'm not hiding. I'm a public person. I've been a judge for 12 years. I haven't hidden any. No. Judge. Don't interrupt us, Judge. We're trying to get to the bottom of this, don't you know? Now, Dr. Ford, is any of this making you uncomfortable? Yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable. Well, how can we accommodate you? Well, I don't want him in the hearing room with me. I don't want all these reporters in there. He should have gone first. I should have gone second. There should have been an FBI investigation. I don't want to be questioned by this woman. I want to be questioned by an old white guy. Oh, I'm sorry. Then we have Lisa Murkowski. Well, given these objections, I don't know that I can vote for Kavanaugh. Susan Collins, what do you say? Try and keep it under 3 hours. Well, I think the same thing. It hasn't been a terribly fair process, you know. Where's Jeff Flake? Well, he's off the Senate floor. I don't know. He's a flake. He's kind of roaming around the hallways here. Where's Bob Corker? Well, he's on the phone with John Kerry trying to undermine the president on the Iran stuff. Oh, okay, he's busy. I understand. Very productive. And then we'll have Kamala Harris. And she'll lecture all the males in America about being insensitive. Now, I don't know, is Kamala Harris married? I know that I'm married to a woman. I'm very sensitive to my wife. So I don't know what Kamala Harris is talking about. Next up, Mazie, what is it, Hirono? Mazie Hirono, what do you have to say? All you men, shut up! Shut up! And stand up! Oh, by the way, Mazie, it turns out, just a few years ago, was slobbering all over the memory of Daniel Inouye. You remember him. He won the Medal of Honor. He was a true war hero. But apparently he was also a sexual harasser and potentially molester. But it didn't matter to Mazie back then, because Mazie back then didn't say guilty until proven innocent. She said Republicans guilty, Democrats innocent. Isn't that really what we're talking about? Sure it is. Sure it is. The DNC has as its number 2 the deputy chairman of the DNC, Keith X. Keith X, was bad enough he was tight with Farrakhan. Don't worry, that's just anti-Semitism. Don't sweat it. Don't sweat it. Apparently he was physically abusive to his longtime live-in girlfriend. The DNC's been investigating this very thoroughly, apparently. Kamala Harris doesn't care. Kirsten Gillibrand doesn't care. Where are they? The guy that runs the DNC, Perez, doesn't care. Bernie Sanders, who backed Keith X for chairman of the DNC, nobody even asks the little commie what he thinks about Keith Ellison anymore. Don't bother me. Don't bother me. I'm busy. Busy. Do you realize what a bunch of clowns and freaks represent us, quote unquote? This is why those of us who are conservative believe in small government, divided government. The best government is the closest to the people, and the least government is the best for the people. Just because somebody happens to get elected doesn't mean they're good or moral or smart or knowledgeable or virtuous. They got elected. That's all. Our framers understood this. This is why they created a republic and not a democracy. This is why only one branch of our government, and half of it, the House, is directly elected by the people. They wanted checks, balances, the diffusion of power, because they know people are fallible. They know they're imperfect. Some of them are downright evil. Right, Durbin? Right, Schumer? And look at the media in this country. Mostly large corporations. These journalists, I tell you over and over again, what makes them journalists? What makes them journalists? How are they journalists? I'm quite serious about this. Because they self-identify? Because they went to journalism school? Does that make them journalists? When they go on TV and propagandize like good little demagogues? When they create a reality rather than report on the real reality? Tell me, has CNN and MSNBC done a fair and balanced job of reporting over the last few weeks? People can say what they want of Fox, but they do have liberals like Shep Smith and others on Fox. There's no question. And they're proud of it. Who is the conservative host or reporter on MSNBC or CNN? Can you name one? Their equivalent in reverse of a Shep Smith. Do they have one? I don't know of any. Do you? Here's George Stephanopoulos, who actually did a pretty good job the other day, but he went back to his pattern. Cut 12, hat tip Mediaite, go.
It does seem, though, that the president has already reached a judgment about their stories, and there does seem to be a pattern here.
I know, I reached a judgment about their stories. What story? There's no witnesses. Go ahead.
When Bill O'Reilly is accused, when Roger Ailes is accused, when Rob Porter is accused, and now when Brett Kavanaugh is accused.
Rob Porter is accused? Oh, I see. The aide. All right, go ahead.
The president consistently, every single time, takes the side of the man.
You know, it's interesting that you say that. It's a lot of Democrats that like to ignore Keith Ellison and Cory Booker. They love to fight and champion women until they disagree with them.
Al Franken lost his job in the Senate.
And a number of other Democrats should have the same type of scrutiny. Look, the president is perfectly
But what's the answer to my question? Every single time the president...
I'll give you the answer to your question, genius. Each case should be taken on its own merits. Why don't you break down each case? You did. Roy Moore, Bill O'Reilly, Roger Ailes, so that's Fox. I could ask the same questions about Charlie Rose and Matt Lauer and Moonves and all the rest of the males in the media, in Hollywood, and the rest. Go ahead.
Of the man against women accusers.
That's not true. And in this case, the president knows Brett Kavanaugh. He's heard his story. There hasn't been a shred of evidence.
So you see, for Stephanopoulos now, so it's about Trump. Trump's the problem. But we dug up George Stephanopoulos in 1992. He was Bill Clinton's mouthpiece. He was questioned by then Sam Donaldson of ABC News. I want you to listen to Stephanopoulos' position. Cut 13, go.
Now, Governor Clinton has a character problem, but I take it that your line of
Clinton has no character
your line
problem.
of counterattack is that it's well. I mean, he has not denied that he has engaged in marital infidelity. He denied a specific
He said
one.
that he had problems in his marriage.
That's right, and he has talked about the draft, and to some people, it's a character problem.
Bill Clinton's passed his character test throughout his life and throughout this campaign. And he's shown it through his commitments to real fights. And what he's going to do in this campaign is focus on what's important to the American people, on the jobs and the education. That's what the American people care about. They want to move into the future. They don't want to be diverted by side issues.
So the question, George Stephanopoulos, is why did you always defend Bill Clinton against women? Why did you do that? Now, in the first hour, we played Joe Biden. As a matter of fact, let's get cut 21 again, Mr. Producer, as we set up the case against Mazie Hirono, who was on CNN today. She's been on TV a lot because the media love her. Go ahead.
And lastly, Judge, with me from the beginning and at this moment until the end, the presumption is with you.
All right, presumption of innocence is with him. Here's Mazie Hirono on CNN today. Cut 14, go.
And by the way, this is not a criminal proceeding. People keep talking about presumption of innocence. That is a term one uses in a criminal proceeding. This is a hearing to determine...
That is a term somebody uses in a civil proceeding. It's a term somebody uses in an arbitration. It is a term somebody uses in school disciplinary cases. It is a notion that is fully enshrined within our entire system of justice at every level, formal or informal. Except, apparently, according to Mazie Hirono, she even disagrees with Joe Biden. You want to know why? Because she's a pathetic fool. A pathetic fool. I'll be right back. Chuck Schumer at a press conference today. No presumption of innocence for Kavanaugh. Cut 15, go.
Leader McConnell just said that Judge Kavanaugh, quote, deserves the presumption of innocence. Do you agree with that? And do you view this hearing through the prism of a legal proceeding?
No, it's not a legal proceeding. It's a fact-finding proceeding. We do this with every major nominee. And countless times...
You are a liar, a serial liar. You are the worst. You know damn well that's a lie. You know damn well what happened during the Clarence Thomas hearings. What Joe Biden said, and what the Democrats all said. Now, we don't need an FBI investigation. Moreover, you know damn well that he is presumed innocent. And that's been the position in these hearings. Until now. See, Schumer's leading the orchestra, ladies and gentlemen. He is the propagandist. He's the man with the big lie. He hands out the talking points every morning. And then every Democrat reads from the talking points. They say exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing without objection. This is what they do. So the man's not presumed innocent. I have to be honest with you, folks. This should shut the whole thing down. If we cannot even agree that an accused is innocent until proven guilty, then that's enough. That's enough. Republicans shouldn't participate in a Soviet-style Star Chamber operation like this. They just shouldn't. And they ought to take off the gloves and really hammer the Democrats now. And the way the reporter asked the question, she's in the tank too. Leader McConnell just said that Kavanaugh deserves the presumption of innocence. Do you agree with that? And do you view this hearing through the prism of a legal proceeding? See, just put a question mark at the end and then you have it. I mean, what you're witnessing here is really quite appalling. I want you to consider the Democrats control the House and the Senate, eventually the presidency, and they only did it for 2 years under Obama, and look at the wrecking ball that was. So you have hypocrites in the media like Stephanopoulos. You have hypocrites in the media who couldn't even spend the time with their vast investigative resources to find Joe Biden in 1991 saying what I've played over and over again, that the FBI should not be involved in this. It's not their job. It'll be a he said, she said, period. Or the presumption of innocence, which he also said. None of that matters. Media didn't dig it up. Quite remarkable. Quite remarkable. So presumed guilty. I want you to hear the other absolutely insane comments. We have Amy Klobuchar. Whatever. What's her name? I know who she is, Klobuchar, but, and she's running for re-election, so congratulations. Listen to this, moron. Cut 16, go.
And the second thing about that interview was when he said that he actually downplayed his drinking, and he said he never really blacked out, so he didn't remember things. I mean, those are things that really go to credibility, given some of the stories circulating out there. And again, even in the Anita Hill hearing, Nora, we had dozens of witnesses that came forward and were allowed to testify. This time, all of that's being shut out. And as a former prosecutor, I think you have to be able to at least get the facts down. I think it's important, no matter what side you're on this, if you want him or you don't want him, don't you want to have the facts?
So the fact that he didn't black out in a drunken stupor demonstrates to this former prosecutor that he lacks credibility. They are so bereft of serious arguments. So bereft. Then we have CNN, and they actually bring in people like this. A criminal defense attorney by the name of Yodit Tawaldi. And don't blame me, I'm just trying to pronounce it. Yodit Tawaldi. Listen to this. And CNN is promoting this by putting this person on their airwaves. Cut 19, go.
During the break, I'm scrolling through Twitter and I'm looking at people actually saying and applauding the judge in this sentence, and then in the same breath wanting to defend Kavanaugh.
She's saying, hey, look, this thing about Cosby, a convicted rapist, and they're applauding this, and then they defend Kavanaugh. What does one have to do with the other? One was a criminal trial in front of a real jury. On the one hand, we're told this isn't a legal proceeding. On the other hand, it's compared to a legal proceeding. This is what happens when you don't follow the rule of law. This is what happens when you're obsessed with hate and contempt and seek to destroy our justice system. Any justice system. Go ahead.
Because again, like Ariva said, this is a
shut up, you idiot. We're surrounded by these idiots. Let's not fool ourselves. Then we got to watch this on Thursday. Oh, my goodness. Which one to you? And let me tell you the main question. Which one to you was more credible? Watch that word credible. I want you to put it in bold, capitals, and underline it. Who was more credible to you? Who's more credible to you, ladies and gentlemen? See, there's no presumption of innocence. There's no actual witnesses. There's no other type of corroboration. So who's more credible? And, of course, we're to believe the woman, not the man, according to the left. Just the way it is for all you men and boys out there. Now, just to update you, the second woman, Ramirez, has indicated through her lawyers that she is not going to testify. That's the news up to this moment. Ford is still trying to decide on the shape of the table. Not sure. Not 100% sure. Too many reporters? No. Kavanaugh in the room? No. Questioned by a woman who's the prosecutor? No. And don't bully her. Whatever you do, don't bully her. All the Democrats already believe her. And all the Democrats announced long before she appeared and came to the Washington Post that Kavanaugh, every one of them on that committee, should be voted down. That's the point of all this. This isn't a hearing. This is a character assassination event. The cards were already stacked on the way you can question Ford and the way you can question Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh, anything goes. Ford, almost nothing goes. But we want to get to the bottom of this. Let's call in the FBI. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I never do this, but we're going to do it again to make it abundantly clear to the millions of my listeners and to push it out as hard as we can to the backbenchers, to our friends on Fox, everywhere else, what Joe Biden said in 1991. Cut 20, go.
The next person that refers to an FBI report as being worth anything obviously doesn't understand anything. FBI explicitly does not, in this or any other case, reach a conclusion. Period. Period. So, Judge, there's no reason why you should know this. The reason why we cannot rely on the FBI report, you wouldn't like it if we did, because it is inconclusive. They say he said, she said, and they said. Period. So when people wave an FBI report before you, understand, they do not reach conclusions. They do not make, as my friend points out more adequate, they do not make recommendations.
Notice he was barely literate then and is barely literate today. And I love the way Republicans say, you know, Joe's a good guy, this lunch bucket Joe. He's really a good guy. No, he's not. He's an ass. Now, media, ball's in your court. Now, Schumer, ball's in your court. It's a checkmate, but nonetheless, I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Now you know, before everybody else, what Biden said in 1991, which completely undercuts the Democrats today. Now, they can resist it, but so what? Now you know what Biden said about burden of proof, which completely upsets undermines the Democrats today. Undermines Schumer, undermines all of them. And you know even more, which is that the media ignored it. The media didn't look for it, or if they found it, they deep-sixed it. See, if the media, in many respects, if they're not the enemy of the people, are they the friend of the people? Do they care about this republic? Why do they seem to push almost exclusively, or certainly most of the time, the agenda of the left? Why do they treat conservatives, some Republicans, or non-progressives in such a nasty way, in such a vicious way, even when they show up in their studios? Why do they hire almost exclusively people of the left? We know they're of the left, the vast majority. Are they friends of the people? Are they promoting a free press, really, when they're a propaganda machine in the aggregate? Of course not. Nobody's attacking the First Amendment. We're attacking these media corporations and their employees, not arguing that there should be a federal statute to eliminate them or anything of the sort. We're just pointing out the obvious. It's obvious to everybody but them, of course. They're the perpetrators. This whole Kavanaugh situation exposes that. You literally have politicians going on TV who are saying there is no presumption of innocence. You literally have politicians going on TV reversing positions that their party held a few decades ago about the FBI. You have people who are supposed to be trying to determine whether Mr. Kavanaugh's fit to be on the Supreme Court, and there's no question he's more than fit, going out, digging up dirt on him. And then they complain about an unfair process. You have the first accuser who says she wants to remain private going to the Washington Post, going to a Democrat congresswoman, who then in turn goes to the Democrat senator. Now we have negotiations taking place. She's calling the shots, and if she doesn't get everything she wants, then you're anti-woman, and so forth and so on. Now, none of us are buying that. None of us. We don't care about what the kook left thinks. What I tried to do on the Sunday show, and apparently it was persuasive, on Fox, was provide some context for what the Democrats have done to the judicial confirmation process over the last 31 years, starting with Bork, working through Clarence Thomas, circuit court judges, some of whom you never heard of before, to show you the memos that are in Men in Black, the memos that the Democrats were writing to each other and their left-wing groups that were basically calling the shots behind the scenes, so you could see how it worked, how they tried to stop a Latino from being on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals and succeeded because they were afraid he was too good and would one day be a Republican nominee to the Supreme Court. How the Democrats have changed their positions multiple times on filibusters in order to try and stuff the courts with ideologues. How they've changed their positions multiple times on whether a Supreme Court justice, a potential, should be nominated in the last year of the presidency. And it just keeps sinking and sinking and sinking. Context is important if you are to watch this on Thursday. I'll be right back. Well, I'm pleased. I really am pleased, and I mean it. Martha McCallum, Tucker Carlson have now played the Joe Biden clip, and where in 1991, as chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, he said, no, there ought not be an FBI investigation. It won't get us anywhere. So this is good. It's very good. All right, let's see if my phone... Oh, look at that. It's working. Mike! Sunshine, Maryland, the great WMAL. Go.
Mark, thanks for taking my call. Sunshine, Maryland is in Montgomery County, just up county from Holton Arms and Georgetown Prep.
Well, congratulations. That's quite the tax haven.
Yes. Well, the FBI, I'm not sure what they're going to do. They've already done 6 background checks on Kavanaugh over his public sphere. And what are they going to do? Are they going to be canvassing this county, this state, this country for those who attended a kegger in 1983? We have a letter it's pretty muddy, I'm sure, muddied by time and alcohol. And what the left or the DNC should have done when they leaked this letter was concurrently filed a police report with Montgomery County Police. And they did not do that, and we all know why.
Yeah, because you're saying it's bogus.
Correct. And it is liability on her part if she files a police report.
No, I don't think anybody would hold her to any standard, quite frankly. Not with all the media. All the media is in her corner. All the Democrats are in her corner. The only thing that's not in her corner is a single witness. All right, Mike, thank you for your call, my friend. Kathy, Bend, Oregon, the great KBND. Go.
Hi, Mark. Listen, I was in the middle of a run when you played that Biden clip as far as him weighing in on the FBI, and honestly, it took my breath away. I could not believe the words coming out of his...
And by the way, thankfully, it's all over Fox right now, and that's important that it should be. Go ahead.
I think that's thanks to you. You are truly a national treasure, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Every time you play something from the past, it's just more education for those of us that are ignorant of what was said. But I think, Mark, I think the problem is you are not aware that we have a new and improved FBI. And what I mean by this is James Comey, when he gave that final report on the Hillary Clinton exoneration, he told us at that time that the FBI not only did the investigation, they did come up with a conclusion, and they did make a recommendation to the Department justice. So they truly do it all, and they also can determine intent, as in Hillary did not intend to do any of the things that she did that were crimes. So we have got an incredible FBI, and I just think you need to kind of get up to speed with what they do, because it's obviously a different FBI than what Joe Biden was describing when he says they do not make conclusions and they don't make recommendations. So
well, I get your point. I really do. The hypocrisy depends on who is being investigated by whom. And I want to thank you for your call. And if you're an American and your heart is still beating and your mind is still working, you have to be disgusted with what's going on in this country. You have to really be disgusted. The question is whether you're going to vote. Are you going to allow these people, the people who chased down Ted Cruz, the people who have destroyed the judicial nomination process, the people who insist on open borders in sanctuary cities, the people who trash our military and eviscerate their funding, the people who hate our cops, are you going to allow them to control the House of Representatives and the United States Senate? I mean, it truly is up to you. They say that you're passive right now. They say that you're disinterested and disconnected right now. Are you? They say that you're so fed up that you're just not going to vote, that you're going to hand the country over to these people. Is that what you're going to do? Well, if you're thinking about that, I want you to look at your children and your grandchildren. Because we conduct these battles for them. For them. The country is rapidly declining. It's rapidly transforming. I don't ever remember gangs of thugs and mobs chasing down a senator in a restaurant, chasing down a White House press secretary, chasing down a cabinet secretary. Do you want to put an end to this? Well, then you better get organized. You better talk to your family members. You better talk to your colleagues in your office or wherever you work. You better talk to everybody you can and make sure they vote. Otherwise, this is our future. I'll be right back.